He had my vote as well.
He had my vote. I'm sorry, man. Very, very close to being a Hall of Famer. He is qualified for Pro Tour Dublin now, so he will be on the ballot, I believe, for next year because of that invitation. As he is playing blue-white control, not a huge surprise to me. Playing against Wyatt, Plott playing black-green rock. The rock deck, it's like the third time that we've seen iterations of the rock deck this weekend on camera. Again, Desecration Demon, Scavenging Ooze, Drag Tusk, Disciple of Bolas. He does have Sign and Blood in his deck, as you see him resolving one. Also has 4 Lifebane Zombies in his main, where some people have moved away from it. But he's currently down a game. I think this matchup is probably a pretty tough one.
So Chris is going to cast an Azorius Charm, draw a card at the end of Wyatt's turn. This list looks very similar to the one we saw last round with Harry Corvasi piloting. It's not identical, but it's close enough that I'm having trouble remembering what the difference is. There's one extra Dissipate, I think, in this list. I'm not sure what the missing card is from this list to make room for that Dissipate. We're going to see a Syncopate to deal with. Did you catch what it was?
A Liliana.
Looking at the list.
Yeah, Liliana has to go away, but Chris does not have land, so he's just going to pass the turn back and try to keep up a reactive shell of counter magic. Maybe he has another Syncopate hiding out over there. Not sure. But he had to take care of that Liliana, because Liliana resolving is a huge problem for him.
Absolutely. So, got a Celestial Flare in Chris's hand? Not quite sure. See, Underworld Connections, and that's going to also meet a Syncopate from Chris, keeping Wyatt from being able to get that card advantage. And Chris is going to play an Augur of Bolas. He's going to find 3 lands.
Wow.
There's that Augur of Bolas, such a jerk sometimes.
And he slams down a plains and fast to the turn back. I'm surprised to see him slamming down so many plains, so I take a look at his deck list as you were. There's 7 islands and 7 plains here. So that's why you see so much white mana.
And Wyatt now, 4 lands in play. Gonna tap 3 of them and play a Lifebane Zombie.
Any hits? You see Double Revelation, Supreme Verdict, and Celestial Flare. So no creatures to hit with Lifebane Zombie, but now Wyatt Plott does have the information to work with moving forward, which is probably the more important thing here of the two.
I mean, in this matchup, what is he hoping to hit? I mean, he can hit Restoration Angel, but that's really it.
Yep.
So he gets that information, though, and that's some pretty relevant information.
It being a 3-1 Intimidate certainly doesn't hurt either, because now he can kind of, he can attack past Augur of Bolas and all
Celestial Flare will deal with that.
Yeah, of course.
So Chris, no land drop, passes the turn. Wyatt has that Liliana. He has a Liliana in hand, a second copy. He's going to cast that, and if Chris didn't top deck a
another
spell,
Syncopate,
yeah, it would have to be a Syncopate as well, because Dissipate wouldn't even work. I don't know what he drew. It's hard to tell, but he's going to discard a Supreme Verdict to Liliana. Wyatt discards a Grizzly Salvage, and Lifebane Zombie will attempt to hit for 3. There you see the Celestial Flare from Chris is going to deal with that. And Wyatt passes the turn with a Resolved Liliana on 4. Chris is going to attack with the Augur of Bolas into Liliana, knock her to 3, and he's got 4 mana for, well, it was Sphinx's Revelation for 1. Oh, he doesn't have double blue.
Oh, yeah.
Can't cycle
Jeez,
Revelation.
That's insane.
Can't cast
that.
Jace. That's frustrating.
Insane.
There was a blue source in that top 3 when he augured.
Yeah, there was at least a Glacial Fortress. Not sure if there were any.
That's what I'm talking about. Augur is such a jerk.
Well,
like, oh, you need blue? Look, here it goes, the bottom.
So Wyatt's going to activate Liliana. It's going to tick up to 4 again. And one of the things that, if you're looking for positives for Pikula, is that he can actually keep it so that Liliana doesn't tick up out of control. A lot of it due to the Augur, so you can at least keep control of it a little bit. That's going to stop happening now because of Garruk Relentless.
Garruk Relentless now on board. He's going to make a token. And Chris may get Planeswalkered out of this game due to the lack of blue mana.
Yeah, one of the things that that the blue-white deck is a little bit soft to actually is Planeswalker, since Pikula draws a Ghost Quarter, I think, for the turn. So he could get a little bit crafty and Ghost Quarter himself to get that second blue mana for his Revelation.
We saw Harry Corvasi do exactly that.
Yep.
And Chris may really need to do the same thing. He says go after playing a Ghost Quarter.
See the frustration, mana troubles this game. Again, this is a matchup that I feel is very good for the blue-white control deck. just because the black-green deck doesn't ask a lot of problems and questions. You know, it doesn't ask very difficult questions for the control deck to have to answer. Liliana being on the table now, the Planeswalkers Resolved and Garruk are, you know, things that they'd like to keep off of the table. But even if they do resolve, they do have Detention Spheres to actually take care of them once they do resolve. So,
yeah,
you know, he's experiencing some mana issues here.
He's still in the game.
Yeah, he's up a game. This game isn't over by any means. So certainly not a game that he needs to give up on. But, you know, frustration is apparent and understandable.
Absolutely. So you see a Wolf token gets in, and then another Wolf token joins the fray alongside the other from the Garruk. And you see Liliana gets plussed. Supreme Verdict goes to the graveyard along with the Desecration Demon from Wyatt. Chris draws his card for the turn, finds a land. I didn't see what it was.
Yeah, didn't make it out very well. Put it up to the top of the screen. I think it may have been another colorless one.
It looks colorless to me as well. And 2 Wolves. Swinging in for 4. Chris is going to go ahead and take the 4. Is a Moorland Haunt. We're getting the information now. Moorland Haunt being the land that is just off camera under Chris's name.
Again, Moorland Haunt's going to be a card that, you know, if he does want to activate it, he can remove the Augur of Bolas, make a 1/1 Spirit. See another Wolf token come in there off of Garruk Relentless for Plott, and Liliana's going to tick up now for the discard. But, you know, it's something that he can actually do to kind of, again, control Liliana a little bit. Make it so it doesn't take up to 6 and threaten the ultimate. As you see, Pikula is going to activate Ghost Quarter on his planes to search out an island after floating a white mana.
Yeah, and so I think we're going to see that Revelation now. So he's going to Revelation for 3 here, including that white mana that he floated. So gain some life, draw some cards.
Time to discard.
And now he has to discard to Liliana. He discards up planes. He's got plenty of those.
See what Plott wants to do on this turn.
Plott passes back, so Chris now 5 lands. Still no second blue, well, no third blue source. He did actually find the second on his own, but he hasn't drawn a blue source. He's going to think twice here. Main phase, draws a card for the turn. Does he have a land drop? No, I think he found another Celestial Flare, maybe? Looked like a white card.
Nice back, I think twice draws a Hollow Fountain. So he's just trying to hit his land drops now.
Yeah, at 17 life, facing down 6 power worth of guys, you're not feeling too threatened at this point. I mean, I say that while Wyatt has 2 Planeswalkers on board, but...
Yeah, I feel like, to me, I feel like he's just trying to get deeper into his deck so he can find an Attention Sphere to take care of Liliana out of the Veil. And, you know, that's pretty much step 1, because I think that after that he can take care of the creatures. That's not the hardest thing for him to do. He has Verdict in his hand right now, also has Restoration Angel as well, but he has to make sure that Liliana the Veil does not go ultimate.
Which is, I think, what she just did. I was just wondering how many counters were on it.
I was thinking it was 5. Or for his sake, I was hoping it was 5.
Right. I just asked to have the cards slid onto camera, but not that relevant now. So Wyatt, Ultimate Liliana, you see -6. Separate all permanents target player controls into 2 piles. That player sacrifices all permanents in the pile of his or her choice. So Wyatt's going to attempt to split Chris's mana so that he has no access to one or the other of color. So he can take he takes the pile with the Hallowed Fountain, which is going to give him triple white sources and just 1 blue source.
Yeah, the 1 blue being important too, because he can cast Supreme Verdict off of it. Here's a Thragtusk now after Liliana. Ultimate resolves, and now Pikula's going to scoop up the game.
Yeah, finds a Dissipate on top. That was really frustrating for Chris, because not being able to find that second blue source until Liliana was about to ultimate, you know, he wasn't able to really dig back in. Now, I think if he had 1 more turn, he may have been able to even dig back in, but it was not to be. So Wyatt Plott evens things up here against Chris Pikula with his Rock deck versus Chris's Blue-White Control deck in round 5 of 10 of the StarCityGames.com Standard Open Series live from Baltimore.
Of course, that's not a great indication of how the games play. Of course, with Pikula having a lot of mana issues, you know, this is something that can't happen in a 2-color deck because he does have 7 planes and 7 islands, so he just drew more planes than he did islands. You know, in a perfect world, he draws a healthy mix of both of them, and he can cast all the spells and actually play a game of Magic. But as we've seen over the course of the day, those kind of mana issues can happen in a 2-color deck. Additionally, we've seen that these black-green decks having trouble with their swamp counts for Mutilates, even though their swamp count is very high. We look at Plott's deck list of 10 swamps and 4 Overgrown Tombs. His swamp count's a little bit lower. You typically find 16 to be the magic number of swamps for a deck with Mutilate. Mutilate not even going to be all that important in this matchup, as it's certainly in his sideboard now. But at the end of the day, these mana issues aren't familiar. It's actually something that we have seen. But by playing these two-color decks with having a lot of basics, you're obviously saying, I don't want to lose the Burning Earth.
Now, looking at Chris's mana base, just because that's what gave him so much trouble this game. He's got 7 plains, 7 islands. So the lists that I've seen typically run 1 or 2 Azorius Guildgates to kind of compensate, because he's got the full 4 Glacial Fortress and Hallowed Fountain. The list that I've been playing does not play Moorland Haunt and only plays 1 Ghost Quarter. So those are 2 colorless lands that I, myself have 2 Azorius Guildgates in those slots, and then I have an additional Mutavault over a Plains. But so it's weird, as you wanna kind of hedge against something like Burning Earth. That's why you're playing a 2-color deck. But at the same time, it's extremely frustrating to not actually have access to one of your colors, and to have a Moorland Haunt and a Ghost Quarter, 2 colorless lands, kind of rubbing it in a little bit, as we saw there.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see Moorland Haunt a lot in these deck lists, and you don't see you oftentimes see maybe one Mutavault, but sometimes 2, because those colorless lands do have applications. In some matchups and stuff like that. Moorland Haunt being probably the better of the 2, and the Mutavault, just because it's going to put a guy in the sky, able to attack a Planeswalker, at least try to control it. Also lets you block a Thunderwell Hellkite for a couple of turns if that's what needs to be done. But those colorless lands, of course, there's an opportunity cost involved with that, and that they don't tap for colored mana, as we saw that game.
So these guys are already post-sideboard. We saw Chris brought in the at least some number of Celestial Flare. What else do you think he may have brought in against this black-green rock deck?
I mean, D-Sphere almost assuredly.
Against those Planeswalkers,
yeah, they take care of the Planeswalkers. I wouldn't be surprised to see Faithmender come in here either, just because it's big and gaining a bunch of life against the black-green deck is actually quite good. The 2 negates as well for Pikula, I think, are going to come in. There's some potential for Jace Memory Deck, because it does a really nice job of closing out the game, and it's a card drawing engine if he needs it to be. Other than that, I don't think anything else. I don't like Rest in Peace. I don't think that he needs anything to win the game. I don't like Blind Obedience. I think that's more of a card for Kibler's red-green deck. Yeah. And Cavern of Souls, he's not trying to force anything through Magic and black-green. And he's already got 26 lands. I don't think he wants a 27th one.
Yeah, that is definitely more for the blue control matchup, where you think the game's going long, you want to hit all your land drops, and you want to resolve your Aetherwings.
For Plott's side, he's got 1 Scavenging Ooze, 1 Mutilate, 3 Barter and Blood, 3 Duress, a Curse of Death Soul, 2 Golgari Charm, 1 Abrupt Decay, 2 Underworld Connections, and 1 Primeval Bounty. I like the 3 Duresses in the sideboard. Love the 2 Golgari Charms as well. Takes care of Detention Sphere and can 1-up a Supreme Verdict. I like the Singleton Abrupt Decay, assuming that he knows that Chris has access to a lot of Detention Spheres. Can also kill Augur of Bolas. Like the 2 Underworld Connections, of course, in this kind of attrition-y, grinded-out, longer matchup. And then the Primeval Bounty is kind of an interesting one, because it costs 6 mana. But if you can't get it on the table, I think it's actually pretty good. But
speaking of on the table, we're underway.
Yeah.
A turn 2 Augur of Bolas from Chris Pikula off of 2 blue-white sources to start the game.
Lucky.
Finds an Azorius Charm, I believe. And Wyatt with double Swamp is going to Sign in Blood here.
6 and 7. So he's going to have to discard now, I think. Yeah. No?
No, that was
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, never mind. Bad math on my part.
Tough to see. So Augur of Bolas is going to get in for 1. Chris Pikula adds an island to his side of the board and passes back. Not usually going to see a ton of action from a blue-white control deck in these early turns. Just ways to hit their land drops and maybe get some more good cards in hand. So there you see a Lifebane zombie from Wyatt Plott. He's going to run that into a Dissipate. Chris,
that Dissipate was immediate.
Yeah, it was. I was going to say Chris must have a Restoration Angel in hand, or a Rock's Faithmender that he wanted to protect. Now we can see that he has a Restoration Angel, at least. It's the front card of his hand. He's also got what appears to be at least double Detention Sphere.
Well, Liliana of the Veil is going to be a juicy target for the Detention Sphere, assuming that Chris wants to take care of it that way. I mean, Restoration Angel can actually... the tag team of Restoration Angel and Augur Wolves can actually take care of it. So this is just going to be a really expensive Raven's Crime, I think.
So there's a resolved Liliana. And Chris is going to go ahead and flash in that Restoration Angel, blink the Augur, find a Syncopate.
I like this play too. This is in response to Liliana ticking up, because if he does find a think twice, he can just discard that.
Right, exactly.
So I actually like that play a lot. I also think that Chris realizes that there's not a 1-mana card that can punish me for playing this right now. So
it looks like he's going to possibly discard one of those Detention Spheres. He's got that in hand here. And he does.
if that's your worst card, you're doing pretty good.
Sure is, yeah. Or sure are, anyway. All right, Chris draws for the turn. I think it was a negate on the top, and Angel and Augur are going to go ahead and tag team to kill that Liliana. Chris
now this is, I wouldn't be surprised if this is how the first game went, that we didn't see of this matchup, of just Chris getting ahead a little bit with an Augur and a Restoration Angel, and then forcing Wyatt, mana problems notwithstanding, to just keep casting cards to try to get himself back into this. This is going to play a Doomblade on the Restoration Angel, but negate. I think that's actually negate worth it because Chris just wants to keep pushing his advantage.
Yeah, protect the queen kind of thing. So you see a Think Twice response from Wyatt as a Doomblade. Chris negates that, draws his card off, Think Twice, saves his Angel, and now on the attack with Augur and Angel, taking pretty large chunks out of Wyatt's life total.
He's going forward at a time and just keeps pressing his advantage. And if he's willing to counter a Doomblade on a Restoration Angel, that means that he just wants to get this game over with, especially with Wyatt having some mana issues here, being stuck on 3.
Yeah, he wants to capitalize on that.
Yep.
Chris actually missed his land drop last turn, and I believe maybe missing it this turn as well. I think there may be some life total disparity here that we're doing some counting. I'm sure they're not adding up the power and toughness of Augur and Restoration Angel.
Looks like they've got it all worked out here. Again, Chris is going to miss his land drop again, I think, here. Yeah, he's just going to pass. But if you're Plott, you can't be thrilled about that because that means that your opponent has all spells in hand.
Yeah, and two of those spells are Azorius Charm, so Chris could certainly decide he'd rather cycle those and try to find that land drop, but he may just be holding on to those for something like he could put the Restoration Angel on top here, actually, and that may be what he does, unless he's going to syncopate. That makes sense. Yeah. I forgot he still had a couple of syncopates in
and I really like the fact that, Chris, that on his end step could have cycled, on Plott's end step he could have cycled an Azorius Charm, but chose not to because they wanted to keep his shields up of syncopate for in between 1 to 3 mana. He's got no reason to make a move here, and so Plott is going to extend the hand, realizing that his hand can't get him back into the game, and he's just going to concede. So Pikula is going to win the match 2-1, going to move on to 4-1, and so we've seen blue-white control here a little bit between Corvasi and Pikula. Look quite good against